The November sun was setting behind the Philadelphia skyline. Richard Westfield gripped the leather steering wheel of his black Escalade. Through the tinted window, he watched his 12-year-old son Dylan slip through the metal door of a crumbling community center. Fourth day in a row. Fourth lie about soccer practice. 5:15 p.m. Dylan should have been on a field in Gladwine right now, not in South Philadelphia's most forgotten neighborhood. "What are you doing here, son?" Richard whispered to the empty car. The building looked condemned. Chipped paint, broken railing, a hand-painted sign above the door. Lighthouse after-school program, all welcome. Richard pulled out his phone, started recording. He didn't know that inside that building, a woman with holes in her shoes was about to teach his son, and him, what wealth really means. The alarm clock screamed at 5:30 a.m. Janelle Harper slapped it silent and stared at the water-stained ceiling of her studio apartment. Another crack had appeared overnight, snaking across the plaster like a river on a map. She didn't move for a full minute, just breathed. Some mornings, getting out of bed felt like lifting a mountain. The space heater in the corner rattled and coughed, barely pushing warmth into the frigid November air. Janelle pulled the thin blanket tighter. Her breath came out in visible puffs. She finally sat up. Her feet hit the cold linoleum floor. On the kitchen counter, really just a hot plate and a mini fridge, sat an envelope marked "electric bill" in her careful handwriting. She opened it, counted the bills inside. $47. The bill was $63. Janelle closed her eyes. Did the math she'd been doing for 3 months straight. Rent, food, bus fare, program supplies, her own electricity. Something had to give. She grabbed a protein bar from the cabinet. Her breakfast. Again. She'd been splitting her meals in half for weeks now, telling herself it was a diet. The truth sat heavier. Every dollar she didn't spend on herself went to the kids at Lighthouse. 23 children who needed her more than she needed a hot meal. The bus ride to the center took 40 minutes. Janelle pressed her forehead against the cold window and watched Philadelphia wake up. Coffee shops, boutiques, people in business suits rushing to jobs that paid actual salaries. She used to be one of them. The bus passed Martin Luther King Elementary, where she'd taught 4th grade for 6 years, where she'd won Teacher of the Year, where she'd finally felt like she'd found her purpose. Budget cuts eliminated her position last March. "Last hired, first fired," the principal had said, not meeting her eyes. "I'm sorry, Janelle. You're an incredible teacher." Not incredible enough to keep, apparently. Janelle blinked hard. She didn't cry on buses anymore. She'd used up those tears months ago. The Lighthouse after-school program occupied the basement of an old community center on the corner of 52nd and Chester. The building had been scheduled for demolition twice. Both times, neighborhood organizing saved it. Barely. Janelle unlocked the door at 6:45 a.m., flipped on the lights. Half of them worked. The space was exactly what you'd expect from a basement running on zero budget. Mismatched tables donated from a closed restaurant. Folding chairs with ripped seats. Buckets in 3 corners catching leaks from pipes overhead. Paint peeling off concrete walls. But it was clean. And it was safe. And for 23 kids, it was home. Janelle walked through the main room, adjusting chairs, straightening the bookshelf she'd built from milk crates and plywood. On the wall hung crayon drawings from the kids, bright bursts of color against the gray. "Good morning, Lighthouse," she whispered to the empty room. This place was her baby, her purpose, her reason for getting out of bed. She'd started it 6 months ago with her final teacher paycheck and a dream. No funding, no grants, no nonprofit status. She couldn't afford the lawyer fees to file the paperwork. Just her. And the kids who had nowhere else to go. The children of parents working 2 jobs, kids in foster care, kids whose schools had given up on them. Kids who were hungry, scared, brilliant, and desperately in need of someone to believe in them. Janelle knew what that felt like. She'd been one of those kids once. Foster care from age 7 to 18, bounced between 6 homes. The system's favorite phrase, difficult to place. Code for black girl with trust issues and a quick tongue. But in 10th grade, a teacher named Mrs. Patterson saw her. Really saw her. Mrs. Patterson stayed after school to help Janelle with college essays, paid for her SAT prep out of pocket, wrote recommendation letters, told Janelle something no one else ever had. You are brilliant, you are, and you deserve every opportunity. Janelle got a full ride to Temple, graduated with honors, became a teacher so she could be someone's Mrs. Patterson. And now, even without a classroom, she still was. The kids started arriving at 3:00 p.m. Janelle was ready. Snacks on the table, bulk crackers and peanut butter from Costco bought with her last $200. Homework stations set up, art supplies organized. Her phone buzzed, a text from the landlord. Rent overdue. 30 days to pay $8,000 or vacate. Janelle's stomach dropped. $8,000. 3 months of back rent plus utilities. She had $45 to her name. The door opened. Miss Rosa shuffled in, all 4'11" of her, carrying a pot of rice and beans. Buenos dias, mija, Rosa said, setting the pot on the hot plate. At 68, Rosa had been volunteering since day one. Her daughter worked nights. Rosa needed purpose. Janelle needed help. They needed each other. Miss Rosa, you didn't have to... Shush. Kids gotta eat. Rosa patted Janelle's cheek. You look tired, baby. I'm fine. Rosa's knowing look said she didn't believe it, but she didn't push. By 3:30 p.m., the basement was full of noise and life. Kids doing homework, playing chess, drawing, laughing. Janelle moved between them like a conductor leading an orchestra, helping with fractions, settling an argument about markers, praising a completed reading assignment. This was why she couldn't give up. Deshaun arrived at 4:00 p.m., still in his AutoZone uniform. 16 years old, former student, now volunteer. He'd been one of her 4th graders before the cuts. Miss J, he said quietly, pulling her aside. You okay? You look... I'm fine, baby, really. But she wasn't, and the eviction notice in her pocket felt like it weighed 1,000 pounds. Outside the window, she noticed him again, the boy who'd been watching for 3 days straight. Expensive athletic gear, nervous eyes, always alone. Today, he was still there, staring at the lighthouse like it held an answer to a question he didn't know how to ask. The envelope arrived at 3:15 p.m. Janelle was helping 7-year-old Marcus with multiplication tables when Deshaun handed her the certified mail. Her name is typed in official letters, the city seal in the corner. Her hands shook as she opened it. Notice of violation and mandatory closure. The words blurred together. Building code violations, broken railing, faulty electrical, non-compliant heating system, immediate inspection scheduled for tomorrow at 2:00 p.m. Facility must cease operations within 48 hours unless all violations are corrected. Estimated repair cost, $12,000. Janelle's vision tunneled. The noise of the room faded to a distant hum. $12,000. She didn't have $12. Miss J? Deshaun's voice cut through. What's wrong? She forced a smile, folded the notice, shoved it in her pocket next to the eviction letter. Nothing, baby. Just paperwork. But her voice cracked on the last word. Deshaun's eyes went dark with understanding. He'd seen that look on his own mother's face too many times. The look of an adult trying to protect kids from adult problems. Miss J, I'm fine. She squeezed his shoulder. Let's get these kids fed, okay? Her phone buzzed. Miss Rosa's daughter. Janelle, I'm so sorry. Mama fell at home. Twisted her ankle bad. She can't come cook today. Janelle closed her eyes. Of course. Is she okay? Doctor says she needs to stay off it for a week. She's crying. Says the kids need her. Tell her not to worry. Tell her to rest. We'll manage. But they wouldn't. Not really. No Miss Rosa meant no hot meal. Janelle had exactly $23 in her wallet. Enough for crackers and apples for 23 kids. Barely. She walked to the supply closet, closed the door behind her. Let herself have 10 seconds. 10 seconds to feel the weight crushing her chest. Then she wiped her eyes, straightened her shoulders, walked back out. The kids couldn't see her break. At 4 p.m., the temperature dropped. The thermometer on the wall read 52 degrees inside. The heating system had been broken for 2 weeks. Kids started pulling on jackets, huddling together. "Miss Janelle, I'm cold," little Aisha said, teeth chattering. "I know, baby. Come here." Janelle wrapped her own cardigan around the tiny 7-year-old. Aisha had been coming to the lighthouse for 4 months. Type 1 diabetic. Insulin pump on her hip. Mother worked the night shift at the hospital, 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. Without the lighthouse, Aisha would be home alone every evening. Janelle couldn't let that happen. At 4:30 p.m., the door opened. The boy who'd been watching finally came inside. Every head turned. The room went quiet. He stood in the doorway, backpack clutched to his chest. White kid, maybe 12, in expensive Jordans and a North Face jacket. He looked terrified. Janelle approached slowly. "Hey, sweetheart, can I help you?" The boy's eyes darted around the room. His voice barely a whisper. "Can I stay?" "Stay?" "Here, with them." He gestured at the other kids. Janelle knelt down to his level. "What's your name, baby?" "Dylan." "Dylan, do your parents know you're here?" He shook his head. Fast. Guilty. "Does someone know where you are?" "My driver, Thomas. He's outside." "Driver? Of course." "Okay, Dylan. Why don't you come sit—" "Wait." Dylan unzipped his backpack, started pulling things out. Brand new sketchbooks, professional art supplies, graphing calculators still in plastic, notebooks, pencils, markers. The kids pressed closer, eyes wide. "I bought these," Dylan said quickly. "With my allowance. I thought, I've been watching you guys, through the window. You needed supplies." Janelle's throat tightened. The supplies were worth at least $300. "Dylan, sweetie, this is incredibly kind, but please," his voice cracked. "Please let me help." Something in his eyes stopped her protest, a loneliness so deep it made her chest ache. "Okay," she said softly. "You can stay." Dylan's whole body sagged with relief. Janelle stood, about to welcome him properly, when Aisha stumbled. The little girl's face had gone pale, waxy, eyes unfocused. "Miss Janelle?" Aisha's voice was distant. "I don't feel good." Janelle's blood went cold. She rushed over, caught Aisha as the girl's knees buckled. "Aisha, baby, when did you last check your sugar?" I don't remember." Hypoglycemia. Janelle knew the signs. Aisha needed glucose. Fast. Juice boxes, candy, something with sugar. Miss Rosa always kept juice boxes. But Miss Rosa wasn't here. "Deshawn, check the fridge. Any juice boxes?" Deshawn ran. Came back 30 seconds later, face grim. "None left." The nearest pharmacy was 8 blocks away. No car, no money for a taxi. The bus stopped running this route at 4 p.m. Aisha's lips were turning pale. Janelle had maybe 10 minutes, maybe less. She scooped Aisha up. The girl's body was limp, getting heavier. "I'm getting you help, baby. Stay with me." Dylan stepped forward. "My driver," he said, voice shaking. "He can take you. He's right outside." Janelle looked at this strange boy. Every instinct screamed not to get in a car with strangers. But Aisha's breathing was getting shallow. "Show me," Janelle said. Dylan ran. Dylan burst through the door. 30 seconds later, a black Escalade pulled up to the curb. The rear door opened. A man in his 50s stepped out. Gray suit, calm eyes, the posture of someone trained to handle emergencies. "Ma'am, I'm Thomas. Dylan says you need help." Janelle didn't hesitate. She carried Aisha toward the car. "Little girl's diabetic, low blood sugar. I need to get to CVS on Broad Street, fast." Thomas opened the door wider. "Get in." Janelle climbed into the back seat, cradling Aisha. Dylan jumped in beside her. "Dylan, you should stay!" "No." His voice was firm. "I'm helping." Thomas was already behind the wheel. The engine purred to life. "CVS on Broad?" Thomas asked. "Yes, please hurry." The Escalade pulled into traffic. Janelle held Aisha close, one hand on the girl's wrist, feeling her pulse. Too fast, too weak. "Stay with me, baby girl," Janelle whispered. "We're almost there. Just stay with me." Aisha's eyes fluttered. Her skin felt clammy. Janelle's heart hammered. She'd dealt with Aisha's blood sugar before, but never this bad, never this fast. "How long has she been like this?" Dylan asked quietly. "Maybe 5 minutes. Started fast." "Is she going to be okay?" Janelle met his eyes, saw real fear there. "She will be," Janelle said. "We're getting her what she needs." But inside, panic clawed at her throat. The leather seats were spotless, temperature controlled, smooth ride. She barely noticed. All her focus was on the little girl in her arms. "2 minutes out," Thomas said from the front seat. His voice was steady, calm. Janelle noticed the privacy partition between front and back. The small refrigerator is built into the side panel. This wasn't just a nice car. This was wealth. Real wealth. Who was this kid? "Almost there, Aisha," Janelle murmured. "Almost there." The Escalade pulled into the CVS parking lot. Thomas parked directly in front of the door. "Go," he said. "I'll wait here." Janelle pushed open the door. Dylan jumped out first, held it open for her. She rushed inside, Aisha heavy in her arms. The fluorescent lights were too bright. A teenage clerk looked up from his phone. "Do you have juice boxes?" Janelle's voice came out sharp, desperate. "Aisle 3. She ran, found the shelf, grabbed 2 boxes of apple juice, then glucose tablets from the diabetes section. Her hands shook as she read labels. Fast acting. That's what she needed. Dylan appeared beside her. "Got them?" "Yes, let's go." They rushed to the checkout. The same bored teenager scanned the items. $23.47. Janelle pulled out her debit card. Swiped it. The machine beeped. Declined. Her stomach dropped. "Try again," the clerk said, not looking up from his phone. She swiped again. Declined. "Ma'am, do you have another card?" Janelle's vision blurred. She had $23 in her account. The total was 23's, $45, 47 cents short. I have cash." She fumbled in her pocket, pulled out crumpled bills, started counting. 20, 21, 22, 23. No more. "I'm short," she whispered. "I'm 47 cents short." The clerk sighed. "Then I can't use this." Dylan slid a black American Express card across the counter. Janelle's head snapped toward him. "Dylan, no, I can't." "The girl needs help." His voice was quiet but firm. "My dad won't care. That's what money's for, right? Helping people?" The clerk swiped the Amex. "Approved." Janelle grabbed the bag. Her hands were shaking so hard she almost dropped it. "Thank you," she breathed. "Dylan, thank you." They ran back outside. Thomas had moved the Escalade closer to the door. He stood beside it, door already open. Janelle climbed in, ripped open the juice box, tilted Aisha's head back gently. "Come on, baby. Drink for me." She pressed the straw to Aisha's lips, squeezed the box slowly. Juice trickled into the girl's mouth. "Swallow, sweetheart. Please, swallow." Aisha's throat moved. Once. Twice. Janelle kept the juice flowing, slow and steady. Dylan sat frozen beside them, eyes wide. "Is it working?" he whispered. "Give it a minute." Janelle unwrapped a glucose tablet, crushed it between her fingers, slipped the pieces into Aisha's mouth. More swallowing. Good. That was good. She tilted the juice box again. More liquid. More sugar flooding Aisha's system. "Come on, baby girl. Come back to me." 30 seconds passed. Felt like 30 years. Then Aisha's eyes opened. Unfocused at first, then clearing. "Miss Janelle?" The relief hit Janelle like a physical wave. She pulled Aisha close, tears streaming down her face. "I'm here, baby. I'm right here. I feel weird. I know. You're okay now. You're okay." Janelle looked up. Dylan was crying too, silent tears running down his cheeks. "She's okay?" he asked. "She's okay." Thomas handed back a blanket from the front seat. For the girl. Janelle wrapped it around Aisha, thick, soft, expensive. "Thank you," she said to Thomas, then to Dylan. "Thank you both. You saved her life." Dylan wiped his eyes. "You saved her. We just drove." "You did more than drive, sweetheart." The Escalade pulled back onto the street, heading toward the lighthouse. Aisha sipped more juice, color returning to her face. She leaned against Janelle's shoulder. "Miss Janelle, I'm sorry." "Shh, nothing to be sorry for, baby. I forgot to eat my snack after school." "It's okay. You're safe now." Janelle held her close, her own heartbeat finally slowing to normal. She glanced at Dylan. He was staring out the window, processing. This boy had just witnessed a life-or-death emergency, had responded without hesitation, had used his resources without ego. Who raised him to be like that? The Escalade pulled up to the lighthouse. Kids' faces pressed against the windows. Deshawn burst out the door. "Is she okay?" "She's fine," Janelle called. "Everyone back inside. It's cold." They climbed out. Aisha could walk now, though Janelle kept one arm around her. Inside, the other kids swarmed them, questions flying. "Give her space," Janelle said gently. "She needs to sit and rest." She settled Aisha on the couch, wrapped her in another blanket, made her drink more juice. Dylan stood near the door, uncertain, like he didn't know if he belonged. Janelle caught his eye, smiled. "Come here, sweetheart." He walked over slowly. She pulled him into a hug, felt him stiffen with surprise, then melt into it. "You were so brave today," she whispered. So brave." When she pulled back, his eyes were wet again. "I've never helped someone like that before." "Well, you did today, and you were amazing." The door opened. Thomas stepped inside. "Dylan," he said quietly, "your father's been calling." Dylan's face fell. "He's mad, isn't he?" "He's worried. We should go." Janelle stood. "Thomas, thank you for everything." Thomas nodded, handed her a business card. "If the young lady needs anything else, or if you do." Janelle glanced at the card. Expensive cardstock, embossed lettering. Thomas Brooks Executive Security Westfield Enterprises. She pocketed it absently. Her focus was on Dylan. "Can I—" Dylan's voice was small. "Can I come back? Tomorrow?" Janelle knelt down, looked him in the eye. Doors always open, baby. His whole face lit up. At the door, he turned back. Miss Janelle? My mom used to run a program like this. Before she... He trailed off, looked down. Before she left. Then he was gone, following Thomas to the Escalade. Janelle stood in the doorway, watching the expensive car pull away. Something about Dylan's last words stuck in her chest. Before she left. Not moved away. Not divorced. Left. Aisha's mother arrived 20 minutes later. Shanice burst through the door, still in her hospital scrubs, face tight with fear. "Where's my baby?" "Right here, Mama." Aisha waved from the couch, juice box in hand. Shanice dropped to her knees, pulling Aisha into her arms. "Baby, are you okay? They called me at work, said you—" "I'm fine, Mama. Miss Janelle saved me." Shanice looked up at Janelle, eyes brimming. "What happened?" Janelle knelt beside them. "Her blood sugar dropped, fast, but we caught it in time. She's okay now." "I checked her pump this morning. I swear I did." "Shanice, it's okay. These things happen. She forgot her afternoon snack, that's all." Shanice pulled Janelle into a fierce hug. "Thank you. God, thank you." "It wasn't just me," Janelle said quietly. "Dylan helped, and his driver." She looked around. Dylan was sitting at one of the tables pretending to read a book, but his eyes kept darting toward them. Janelle walked over, sat down beside him. "You did good today, sweetheart." Dylan closed the book. "I was scared." "Me too. But you didn't look scared." Janelle smiled. "That's the trick. Being brave doesn't mean not being afraid. It means doing the right thing even when you're shaking." Dylan was quiet for a moment. Then he reached into his pocket, pulled out his wallet. "Here." He tried to hand her 5 $100 bills. "For the program. To replace what you spent today, and for other stuff you need." Janelle's chest tightened. She gently pushed the money back toward him. "Dylan, no. But you need it. I saw the notice on your desk, the eviction thing, and the heat's broken, and..." "How do you know about all that?" His cheeks flushed. "I've been watching, through the window, for 3 days. I see everything." Janelle studied his face, this 12-year-old boy who'd been observing them like a documentary. "Why?" she asked softly. "Because..." He struggled for words. "Because it looked like what I remember. From before." "Before what?" "Before my mom left." There it was again. That word. Left. Janelle took his hands in hers. The bills crumpled between their fingers. "Dylan, listen to me. What you did today, calling Thomas, paying at the pharmacy, staying calm, that was worth more than any amount of money. But the program, we'll figure it out. We always do. But I have money. I can help." "You already did help. You showed up. You were brave. You used your resources to save a life." "That's everything." Dylan's voice dropped to a whisper. "Everyone always wants my money. My dad's money. That's all anyone ever wants from me." Janelle's heart cracked. She pulled him close. "Not from you, baby. Not from you. Then what do you want?" "I want you to remember today. I want you to remember that one person with courage can change everything. And I want you to know that your heart, that's your real wealth, not what's in your wallet." Dylan was crying now, silent tears soaking into her shoulder. "Can I really come back tomorrow?" "Every day if you want." The door opened again. Thomas stepped inside, phone in hand. "Dylan, we really need to go. Your father's called 6 times." Dylan pulled back, wiping his eyes. He looked at the money still in his hand. "Please," he said one more time. "Please take it. Janelle folded his fingers around the bills. I can't. But what you can do is come back tomorrow and help Deshawn fix that broken table. And read to some of the younger kids. That's what I need. Dylan nodded slowly, pocketed the money. Okay. At the door, Thomas rested a protective hand on Dylan's shoulder. The gesture was tender, familiar, more than just an employee. Thank you again, Ms. Harper, Thomas said, for including him today. He's welcome any time. As they walked to the Escalade, Janelle noticed Thomas didn't open the door like a chauffeur would. He waited beside Dylan, like a guardian. Who were these people? She pulled out the business card from her pocket. Read it properly this time. Thomas Brooks, Executive Security, Westfield Enterprises, Westfield Enterprises. The name meant nothing to her. Inside, Deshawn appeared at her elbow. Miss J, who was that kid? Someone who needed a safe place, just like you did once. He's rich. He's lonely. Deshawn was quiet. Then, you gonna take his money next time? Janelle looked at the eviction notice still on her desk. The inspection notice. The impossible numbers. No, she said firmly. Across the city, Richard Westfield sat in his home office. The dashcam footage played on his laptop for the 7th time. He watched Janelle carry the little girl to the Escalade, watched her cradle the child with such tenderness, watched Dylan's face transform from fear to purpose, watched Janelle refuse his son's money. Richard's chest ached. On the shelf behind him sat a photograph. Catherine, his wife, smiling at a ribbon-cutting ceremony for one of her after-school programs. 3 years since cancer took her. 3 years since he'd shut down everything she built. Too painful to continue. Too painful to watch other people carry on her dream while she was gone. So he'd closed the Westfield Foundation. All 43 programs. Dylan had been 9 then, too young to understand why Daddy stopped doing Mommy's work, but apparently old enough to go looking for it on his own. Richard clicked back to the beginning of the footage. Watched again. The way Janelle spoke to Dylan. The way she saw him, not as a rich kid, but as a child who needed purpose. Catherine used to say that. Every child needs purpose, Richard, rich or poor. Purpose is what makes us human. His phone buzzed. Text from the private investigator he'd hired overnight. Full report attached. Richard opened it. Subject, Janelle Marie Harper. Age, 34. Former, elementary teacher. Current, unemployed. Runs volunteer program, Lighthouse, serving 23 children. Financial, $45 in bank. 3 months behind rent. Eviction pending. Property, faces closure in 48 hours. Repair cost, $12,000. Below that, testimonials from parents and community members. Miss Harper saved my son's life every day for 6 months. She gave up her own meals to feed our children. That program is the only reason my daughter hasn't given up. Richard closed his eyes. Catherine would have loved her. His phone rang. Thomas. Sir, we're heading back. Dylan is quiet. Did he say anything? Asked if you'd let him go back tomorrow. What did you tell him? Thomas paused. I said I hoped you would. Richard looked at Catherine's photograph, at her smile, at the purpose that had radiated from her. Thomas, tomorrow I need you to drive me to that center. Dylan will be there after school. I know. Richard hung up, stared at the screen, at Janelle Harper, who had nothing, giving everything, at his son, who had everything, desperate to give something that mattered. The city inspector was scheduled for 2:00 p.m. tomorrow. Richard had 18 hours to decide if he was brave enough to step back into the world his wife had loved, the world he'd abandoned when it hurt too much to stay. The next afternoon, Dylan returned at 3:30 p.m., backpack full of books he wanted to donate, a nervous smile on his face. The kids greeted him like he'd always been there. "Dylan, come help us with this puzzle!" "Dylan, look what I drew!" He settled in easily, laughing, helping Deshawn fix a wobbly table leg, reading picture books to the younger kids. Janelle watched from across the room. In 24 hours, this boy had transformed from anxious outsider to welcomed friend. At 4:15 p.m., the door opened. A man in a suit stepped inside, clipboard in hand, city badge clipped to his belt. The inspector. Janelle's stomach dropped. "Janelle Harper?" the man asked. "That's me. Inspector Morrison, here for the code compliance check." The room went quiet, kids sensing the tension. "Of course. Let me show you around." The next 30 minutes were agony. Inspector Morrison documented everything. The broken railing, the faulty wiring, the heating system, the plumbing issues, the blocked fire exit. He took photos, made notes. His expression grew grimmer with each violation. Finally, he turned to Janelle. "Ms. Harper, I'm sorry. This facility cannot remain open. I understand there are issues, but these are serious safety violations. If something happened, a fire, a collapse, children could die." The words hit like a punch. "How long do I have?" 48 hours to cease operations. If you can provide proof of repairs and pass re-inspection, you can reopen." He handed her the official notice. Mandatory closure. Janelle's hands shook. The repair estimate? 12 to 15,000, maybe more. $12,000. She had $45. Inspector Morrison's expression softened. "I can see this is a good program, but I have a job to do. I'm sorry." He left. Janelle stood frozen, notice in hand. The kids had gone silent. "Miss J?" Deshawn's voice was small. "Are we closing?" Before she could answer, Dylan bolted for the door. "Dylan, wait!" But he was already outside. Through the window, Janelle watched him run to the Escalade, saw him yank open the door, saw him in heated conversation with Thomas. Thomas pulled out his phone, made a call. His posture changed, straightened, the way someone does when speaking to authority. Dylan was gesturing frantically, pointing at the building. Even from a distance, Janelle could see he was crying. Thomas spoke into the phone, nodded, handed it to Dylan. Dylan took it, spoke urgently, his whole body pleading. Then he lowered the phone. His shoulders sagged. Whatever answer he'd gotten, it wasn't what he wanted. Thomas said something to Dylan, pointed down the street, and then Janelle saw it. A Mercedes S-Class pulled up behind the Escalade. Black, pristine. A man stepped out. Tall, white, expensive overcoat. The kind of presence that commanded attention without trying. He looked at the Lighthouse Center, then at Dylan, then at Thomas. They talked. Dylan animated, the man listening. Then the man started walking toward the center. Dylan and Thomas followed. Janelle positioned herself between the door and her kids. The door opened. The man stepped inside. His eyes swept the room, taking in everything. His gaze landed on Janelle. "I'm looking for Janelle Harper." His voice was measured, controlled. "That's me." Janelle kept her voice steady. "And you are?" "Richard Westfield. I believe you've met my son, Dylan." Dylan stepped out from behind him. "Dad, please." "Your son?" Janelle looked between them. The expensive car, the black Amex, Thomas's deference. Westfield Enterprises. Oh. "Dylan has been very helpful," Janelle said carefully. "Has he?" Richard's tone was sharp. "Because I wasn't aware my 12-year-old was spending afternoons in..." He glanced around. "This." The dismissal in his voice ignited something in Janelle's chest. This is a safe place for 23 children. A safe place with code violations and a closure notice? How did he know about that? We're working on it. Are you? Because from where I'm standing, you're running an unlicensed program out of a condemned building, taking donations from children. Taking donations? Janelle's voice rose. Your son offered. I refused. But you let him use his credit card yesterday. Put him in dangerous situations. Dangerous? Your son helped save a little girl's life. He's 12 years old. He doesn't get to make those choices. The kids pressed against the far wall, watching. Fear on every face. Dylan stepped between them. Dad, stop! His voice cracked. You don't understand. Then explain why you've been lying to me for a week. Because this is the only place that feels like Mom. The room went silent. Richard froze. Dylan was sobbing now. Mom used to take me to her programs, remember? We'd make sandwiches and read to kids, and she said helping people was the only thing that mattered. Dylan, then she died and you shut it all down. Everything she loved. You locked yourself away and I... His voice broke. I just wanted to feel close to her again. Richard's face had gone pale. Miss Janelle is like Mom. She doesn't have anything, but she gives everything. She sees people, not problems. Dylan looked back at his father. I lied because I knew you wouldn't understand. You've spent 3 years running from everything Mom cared about. I was protecting you. You were protecting yourself! The words hung in the air. Richard's hands were shaking. He looked at Janelle. Really looked. Saw the exhaustion. The paint-stained clothes. The children clinging to her despite the chaos. Saw Dylan, relaxed and purposeful, even while crying. The happiest Richard had seen his son in 3 years. Your wife, Janelle said quietly. She ran programs like this? Richard's voice was barely audible. 43 of them. The Westfield Foundation, youth development, education. What happened? I shut them down after she... He couldn't finish. Understanding dawned on Janelle's face. I just wanted to help kids like Mom did, Dylan whispered. I wanted to matter. Richard sank into one of the small chairs. You matter. You've always mattered. I just didn't know how to do this without her. So you stopped trying? Yes. Silence. Janelle spoke softly. Mr. Westfield, your son saved a life yesterday. Not with money, with courage. He has an extraordinary heart. I'd guess he learned that from someone pretty special. Richard looked at Dylan, at his son, searching for his mother's legacy in the last place Richard would have looked. Richard sat in that small chair for a long moment. The children watched him, waiting. Finally, he stood, pulled out his phone, made a call. Jenkins, it's Westfield. I need a contractor at this address immediately. Full building assessment and emergency repairs. Yes, tonight. I don't care what it costs. He ended the call, looked at Janelle. The repairs will be handled. You'll pass inspection. Janelle blinked. Mr. Westfield, I can't accept... You're not accepting. I'm investing. He gestured around the room. My son found something here worth lying to me for. That deserves investigation. Investigation? May I sit down? Properly this time? Janelle nodded, still processing. They sat at one of the mismatched tables. Dylan hovered nearby, uncertain. Richard pulled out his tablet, opened a folder. After Catherine died, I shut down the Westfield Foundation. 43 after-school programs across 5 states. We served over 2,000 children annually. He showed her the screen. Photos of gleaming facilities, smiling kids, ribbons being cut. It was her life's work. When she got sick, she made me promise to keep it going. But when she died, his voice caught. I couldn't walk into those buildings without seeing her, hearing her voice, feeling her absence. So you closed them all, Janelle said softly. I told myself it was temporary, that I needed time. But 3 years passed and He looked at Dylan. I didn't realize what I was taking from him, too. Dylan's eyes were red, but he stayed quiet. Richard turned back to Janelle. Last night, I watched dashcam footage of you saving that little girl. Watched you refuse my son's money. Watched you teach him that being wealthy means nothing if you're not good. He paused. My wife used to say the same thing. Janelle's throat tightened. Ms. Harper, I want to reopen the Westfield Foundation, and I want you to run the flagship program. Janelle's mind went blank. What? Not this program. Though we'll save this one. Repairs starting tonight, rent paid for 5 years, full heating and electrical upgrades. The kids who'd been listening gasped, started whispering excitedly. But that's just the beginning. Richard swiped to another screen. Architectural renders, budget projections, partnership contracts. Catherine's vision was a network, after-school programs, mentor matching, college pipeline, employment partnerships for graduates. He showed her the plans. Beautiful facilities, comprehensive programming, real resources. 30 programs in 5 years, starting with 10 next year across Philadelphia, Camden, and Wilmington. Janelle couldn't breathe. You'd design the curriculum, hire the staff, set the values, full operational control. Annual budget, $15 million. The number made her dizzy. Mr. Westfield, I'm not qualified for that. I don't have an MBA. No nonprofit management experience. Catherine didn't either. She had vision, heart, refusal to give up on kids everyone else ignored. He looked directly at her. Just like you. But I'll hire an executive team. Legal, HR, finance. You focus on what matters. The kids. Your salary would be $150,000 annually, plus benefits. Janelle's mind reeled. She'd made $42,000 as a teacher. Now she was unemployed. Foundation offices will be in Center City, but this location becomes Program 1, your headquarters, your model that the others follow. He swiped again. Organizational charts, staffing plans, timeline. Board of directors, you, me, and 3 education experts you choose. You have final say on all programming decisions. Deshawn had moved closer, listening. His eyes were wide. Richard's voice softened. Ms. Harper, I'm not offering charity. I'm offering Catherine's dream back to the world. And I need you to show me and Dylan how to honor her memory by actually living her values. His voice broke slightly. I spent 3 years hiding from her loss. Dylan spent 3 years watching me disappear. You've shown us both that service is how we heal. He extended his hand across the table. Will you help us find our way back? Janelle stared at his hand. At this man who'd walked in angry and was now offering to change her life, to change 23 kids' lives, to resurrect a dead woman's dream. It was too much. Too fast. I don't know what to say. Say yes. Let us invest in you the way you've invested in these children. Janelle looked around the room, at the kids watching with hope, at Deshawn, who'd been her student once and was now her right hand, at Dylan, whose face showed desperate longing for her to say yes, at the life she'd been living, scraping by, sacrificing everything, one crisis away from collapse, and at the possibility of actually having resources to match her vision. If I say yes, she said slowly, we do this right, with integrity, with transparency, keeping kids first, always. Agreed. No corporate branding that exploits them. No photo ops that make them feel like charity cases. Agreed. And Dylan, she looked at the boy. He joins this program not as your son, not as a rich kid doing charity, just as Dylan, another child who needs community. Richard looked at his son. Can you accept that? Dylan nodded eagerly. Yes, please. Janelle took a deep breath, extended her hand, met Richard's across the table. Then yes, let's honor Catherine's memory the right way. They shook. The room erupted, kids cheering, Deshawn whooping, Dylan crying happy tears. Richard's eyes were wet too. Catherine would have liked you immensely, he said. I wish I could have met her. You remind me of her. That's why Dylan felt drawn here. Richard stood, made another call. Jenkins, add this to tonight's work order. I want that building perfect. And have our lawyers draft a 5-year lease agreement. Rent paid in full. Yes, tonight. He looked at Janelle. We have a foundation to rebuild. Are you free Monday morning? We should start planning. Janelle thought of her empty calendar, her unemployment checks, her desperate job applications. I'm free. 9 a.m., my office. Bring every idea you've ever had. Every dream you've shelved because you didn't have resources. I have notebooks full. Perfect. We'll make everyone real. As Richard and Dylan prepared to leave, Dylan hugged Janelle again. Thank you, he whispered. For what, baby? For not giving up. For showing Dad that Mom's work still matters. Janelle held him tight. It always mattered. We just needed to help him see it. 6 months later, everything had changed. The Lighthouse Center gleamed. New paint, fixed railing, a heating system that actually worked. Bright LED lights replaced the flickering fluorescence. The buckets catching leaks were gone. Instead, there were computers, an art studio, a library with hundreds of books, a kitchen where Miss Rosa, now the paid head chef, cooked healthy meals, 62 kids enrolled, wait list of 34. Janelle stood in the main room, watching the organized chaos of after-school life. Kids doing homework, playing chess, creating art, laughing. Deshawn walked past in his youth coordinator polo, clipboard in hand. He was 18 now, enrolled at Penn State on a full Westfield Foundation scholarship. He worked at Lighthouse 4 days a week. Miss J, the new tutors are here for orientation, he said. Perfect, I'll be right there. Janelle still couldn't believe this was her life. Executive Director of the Westfield Foundation, $150,000 salary, an actual team, resources that meant she could say yes instead of always saying, I wish I could. But she'd kept her promise. She still spent afternoons at Lighthouse, still knew every kid's name, still wore simple clothes and drove a modest car. Resources go to kids, not status, she'd told Richard when he'd offered her a company car. The foundation had grown faster than anyone expected. 10 programs across Philadelphia, Camden, and Wilmington. 847 children served. 23 corporate mentors recruited. A college scholarship fund with $2.3 million, and it was just the beginning. Janelle's office was in Center City now, 14th floor, view of the city, conference room where she met with donors and partners. But Lighthouse was still home. Dylan arrived at 4:00 p.m., backpack over his shoulder. He attended public school now, Richard's decision. 3 days a week at his prep school, 2 days at the local public school, building bridges between worlds. He was different now, confident, purposeful. He led the peer mentoring program, teaching his wealthy classmates about service. Miss Janelle, he waved, can I show the new kids around? Go ahead, baby. She watched him guide 3 nervous newcomers through the space. Patient, kind, exactly like his mother must have been. Richard had changed too. He visited Lighthouse twice a week, usually just observing, learning to be present again, learning to honor Catherine's memory through action instead of avoidance. Father and son were healing together. The news coverage had been unexpected. A local reporter, Keisha Williams, had done a deep dive. Where did the Westfield Foundation go, and why did it come back? The piece featured interviews with Janelle, Richard, Dylan, parents, kids. It told the story of Aisha's rescue, of Dylan's search for his mother's legacy, of Janelle's refusal to take money from a 12-year-old's guilt. 4.2 million views in 3 days. Then 60 Minutes called. The segment aired last month. The teacher who saved a billionaire's soul. Richard's interview had been raw, honest. I had all the money in the world, and I was the poorest man I knew. Janelle didn't save my son. She saved me. Janelle's interview focused on the kids. This isn't charity, it's justice. Every child deserves investment. The response was overwhelming. 17 cities had contacted them, wanting to replicate the model. Other billionaires called Richard asking about authentic philanthropy. A hashtag trended. #EveryChildDeserves. But for Janelle, the real impact was smaller, more personal. Aisha was thriving now, 8 years old, healthy, talking about becoming a doctor, like Miss Janelle saved me. 3 of the original Lighthouse kids had been accepted to prestigious prep schools with full scholarships. One mother had earned her GED through the adult education classes Janelle had added. Deshawn was studying engineering at Penn State. Local businesses were donating. Comcast provided computers. Aramark handled food service. SEPTA gave transportation passes. Richard's companies now gave employees paid volunteer hours and matching gifts for donations. Even his stock price had risen 23%. Investors loved authentic corporate social responsibility. But the moment that meant the most came 3 weeks ago. The Lighthouse graduation ceremony. All 23 original kids receiving the Catherine Westfield Compassion Award. Dylan had presented them, voice steady but emotional. My mom believed one person could change the world. Miss Janelle proved her right. Richard had unveiled Catherine's portrait in the main hall. A plaque beneath it read, "She taught us what wealth really means." Janelle had cried looking at it. "I never met her," she'd whispered to Richard, "but I feel like she led me here." "She did," Richard said. "Through Dylan. Through me. Through the dream she refused to let die." Now, watching the room full of children, fed, safe, learning, loved, Janelle felt Catherine's presence. Not as a ghost, as a promise kept, a legacy resurrected, a dream that refused to die because people refused to let it. 1 year after Aisha's rescue, history repeated itself. November evening. The temperature had dropped. Janelle was at the lighthouse finishing paperwork when someone knocked on the door. She looked up. A teenage girl stood outside, maybe 14, crying, soaked from the rain that had just started, bruise on her left arm. Janelle opened the door immediately. "Sweetheart, come in." The girl stepped inside, shaking. I didn't know where else to go." Dylan was there, volunteering as usual. He grabbed a blanket without being asked, brought water, sat beside the girl at a safe distance. "You're safe here," he said quietly. "What's your name?" "Maya." "I'm Dylan. This is Miss Janelle. We're going to help you, okay?" Janelle watched him, calm, present, using everything she'd taught him. Maya's story came out slowly. Abusive stepfather, mother who wouldn't listen. She'd run away, had nowhere to go, was terrified. Janelle made calls, crisis services, safe house placement, advocate, counselor. Dylan stayed with Maya the whole time, talking softly, sharing his own story of loss and finding purpose, holding space for her fear. When the social worker arrived an hour later, Maya was calm, still scared but no longer alone. As they prepared to leave, Maya looked at Dylan. "Thank you for not making me feel stupid for running." "Asking for help isn't stupid," Dylan said. "It's the bravest thing you can do." After they left, Richard arrived. He'd been having dinner nearby when Janelle texted. He stood in the doorway watching Dylan clean up, watching his son move through the space with confidence and compassion. "You handled that perfectly," Richard said. Dylan looked up. Miss Janelle taught me. Your mother would be so proud of you. For the first time in a year, Dylan didn't cry at the mention of his mother. He smiled instead. I think she'd be proud of all of us. That weekend was the Foundation's one-year anniversary gala. 500 attendees, $3.8 million raised. Janelle gave the speech, telling the story of refusing Dylan's first $500. That moment taught him that people aren't transactions, they're sacred. And that lesson is now changing hundreds of lives. After the gala, the three of them returned to the lighthouse. Sat in the original basement room, preserved as the beginning room. Richard looked around. A year ago, I was lost. My son was slipping away. You brought us back. You brought yourselves back, Janelle said. I just held the door open. Dylan placed fresh flowers beneath Catherine's portrait. Miss Janelle, thank you for refusing my money. Thank you for being brave enough to show up anyway. They sat in comfortable silence, looking at Catherine's smile. One woman's dream, one teacher's courage, one boy's desperate search for meaning, and now 1,200 children whose lives would never be the same. Tomorrow they'll reach 1,201, because kindness wasn't an act. It was a revolution, and revolutions never stopped. Janelle Harper didn't change the world because she was special. She changed it because she refused to accept that ordinary people can't do extraordinary things. Today, the Westfield Foundation serves 1,200 children, all because one woman chose compassion over comfort, and one billionaire chose humility over ego. Your act of kindness, no matter how small, creates ripples you may never see. The child you help today could save lives tomorrow. The door you hold open could lead someone to their destiny. Be like Janelle. Show up. Be brave. Refuse to believe that one person can't matter. Here's my question for you. What's one small act of kindness you could do today? Drop your answer in the comments below. Let's inspire each other. If this story moved you, hit that like button, share it with someone who needs hope right now, and subscribe so you never miss stories that prove goodness still wins. Now go. Be the light someone else needs.
The story you heard today wasn't cleaned up. It was told exactly as it happened. At Black Voices Uncut, we believe that's the only way truth can live. If you felt something, hit like, comment, and your reaction, and subscribe. Every week, we bring you voices that refuse to be silenced.